Hey guys, I want to talk about something pretty personal today, and it's something that I've struggled with for about a year now, but it's not something that I like to talk about, so sorry if I seem really awkward, but I feel like making a video about it would help me come to grips with it and also help any of you that are struggling with the same sort of thing. I struggle quite badly with anxiety and panic attacks. This sort of time last year, it was just before we started our year 10 mocks. I had been under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, and I came to the realisation that it was all too much for me and I really hated feeling pressurised. One day after school, when I was revising for these mocks, I was in my room and I remember I started feeling like I couldn't breathe and I thought I was gonna suffocate on nothing. I felt like I was almost drowning and it was awful. So I didn't know what to do. My parents weren't home. I was home alone. So I called my best friend and I told her, whilst trying to keep my breathing right, I told her that what was going on, and she gave me some of the best advice because she'd been in this situation before. She'd known other people that have had it and she helped me through it. To start with, I didn't think it was anything. I thought it was a one-off, but a few days later it happened again, slightly worse, and then the next day after that I had one in the school, in the middle of the corridor, a panic attack right outside one of the classrooms during break time, just as the bell went. And the whole corridor was filled with people, and it was the most awful thing because I just felt like everyone was staring at me and thinking I was a freak or thinking there was something wrong with me. Well, clearly there was, but I collapsed on the floor and my art teacher was walking past and he grabbed me by the arm, not viciously, just took me into a quiet room and he knew exactly what was happening. But after that I didn't have any panic attacks, although they weren't really full-on panic attacks, they were just more of an anxiety attack, and I didn't really have any for a long time, until it came to my actual exams at the beginning of this year. And I had almost forgotten about it until I started feeling anxious a lot all of the time, where I would just get nervous about the stupidest things, and it really messed with my head. It was affecting me because everything I'd done, I was constantly worried. Like, if I went anywhere, where would there be a place that I could get out if I needed to of a situation, or what if in an exam I had a panic attack, what would happen then, which just made me feel even worse. And then they started happening again. I admit they weren't very intense, they never were, but they were always scary, and you always had the thought, oh, what if it doesn't stop, what if I end up not being able to breathe and ultimately dying from it, which obviously that's not going to happen, but every time that you're in this situation you do feel like that would be the result. I went through a stage of them again, and then again after exams were finished I was fine again. But this summer I went on an NCS course for 3 weeks, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. But actually going to that and some of the things that happened there really, really affected my anxiety a lot, which is what I want to talk about. Originally, I was going to do this course with my best friend, and this is the one that helped me to start with my anxiety, and she was the one that knew everything about it. She knew how I was feeling, she knew what I was like before I had one, and she could tell if anything was wrong. The fact that she was going to be with me was really comforting to me and made me think that it was all going to be fine. I'd have her by my side in case I need her. But just after I'd signed up, she had told me that she couldn't do it anymore, and she decided she didn't want to, which is fair enough because she had a lot of other commitments going on. She had other stuff in her life too. So I told myself I was just gonna pull out of it, but I realised that I'm not gonna get anywhere if I always have a safety net. So I decided I was gonna go along with it, and it took a lot of guts because I've never done anything on my own, really, and I've always had someone there with me. So it came to the actual day of this, well, the week before building up, I was so nervous and kept considering not going and just calling up and cancelling. But it got to the night before and I decided, you know what, it's only anxiety, what's it gonna do? I'm not gonna let it get the better of me this time. So that day, when I got there, I was the first one to arrive, which was actually alright because I knew a few of the leaders and I'd been to this place that it was held at before, so it wasn't all new to me. Then people started arriving, and that's when it hit me, and there was about 60 to 80 people there who were all on this course, and I didn't know a single one of them. There was one girl who was the first one out of the rest of the people to come in, and she sat by me and we started talking a bit, and she made me feel so welcome, and she made me realise that it really wasn't that big of a deal. And soon enough I started making friends, some of the bestest friends that I've ever made, and people that I hope will be in my life forever. Everything was just full on and involved and made me build so much confidence. But it got to the Thursday of the first week. We were told that 2 of our team members were going home out of the blue, and their parents were already there for something that we didn't even know had happened, and everything went crazy because by then we'd become like a family. Our team was like a family, and this just would have messed the whole team up. Everyone started crying and getting all worked up about it because it was so sprung on. Obviously started crying as well, and one of the people in our team calmed me down and he told me it was alright, everything was going to be okay, and I was fine for a bit. And then I tried to help calm other people down, and then I felt a tingling in my hands, and at that moment I knew exactly what was happening, and I knew that I was going to be having a panic attack. So I told one of my leaders. They set me down on a chair and tied my hair back because I couldn't breathe. I was shaking like crazy and I was hyperventilating basically. Obviously they knew what was happening, but they didn't know how to stop it or anything. This went on for about 20 minutes and it's been the most intense panic attack I've ever had. And then I started to calm down a bit with the not breathing, but still had these tinglings in my hands and my feet and my lips as well now. But my hands had started cramping, which I'd never experienced before. So they told me to run it under cold water, which probably wasn't the best idea, but I did it anyway, and it just made it worse. I went back outside and sat down on a chair, and we were told that it was a mistake and they weren't going home, but that didn't help, and for about an hour, I'd say, I kept almost going into another panic attack and kept having to stop myself, and it took so much effort to keep myself from going into one, and a lot of people helped and they know who they are, and it was awful. I hated people seeing me like it. The leaders had to have the ambulance ready to call because they thought I was going to have to go to hospital. I told them not to call them. I said I don't want them to phone them. I don't want them to phone my parents, because I was so embarrassed of myself because I'd done so well and hadn't had one for so long, and then suddenly this was worse than anything I've ever had, and I was so scared. The thing that hit me the most is that I was just annoyed with myself and I really hated myself for it. But after about an hour, it died down and I was so tired. It was like I'd been on laughing gas afterwards because I was so oxygen deprived, and I could tell how I was acting but I couldn't stop it. And one girl lent me her bed for the night because I was sleeping in a tent that night and she wasn't, she was in a dorm, which I really appreciate because I don't think I could have slept in a tent then. And the next morning I felt so awful and I felt like everyone was looking at me. But the reason that I've made this video is because a lot of people think that it's just something you do for attention, which is ridiculous, or tell you to calm down when it's not that easy. And I just want people who don't go through it to realise that it is a huge struggle and you feel awful, completely awful, and it's so much that you don't see that goes on in your head which really affects you. I didn't tell my parents about it until a few days ago actually, because I was so embarrassed about it. And people told me not to be stupid, but I just felt like everyone was judging me for it and thought I was a weirdo. But it turns out that you're not the only one going through it. There are other people who are going through it and other people that are experiencing a similar thing, or know people that are experiencing a similar thing. And it does get better, but it also can get worse. But it never gets impossible. You can always deal with it. You just have to push yourself and know that you can get over it with a lot of effort. That's all I have to say. Hopefully this video has helped some of you out. I might make another video soon on similar things. If you've got any situations that are like this, please leave them in the comments, and I'd love it if you could rate this and share it with your friends and possibly subscribe too. I'd like that. So thank you for watching and I'll see you again soon.